for today's guest. Gab Bujold is the founder of Press X to Market and co-host of We're Not Marketers, where he helps B2B SaaS teams turn product marketing thinking into repeatable AI-powered systems. Over the last decade, Gab has worked with more than 40 SaaS companies on messaging, positioning, product launches, and go-to-market strategy, pretty much all of the above. And through that work, he's developed a point of view that I think will resonate with a lot of marketers in the room today. The biggest constraint in modern marketing isn't usually your campaign, it's the foundation that you build your campaign on, right? Because today, targeting is harder, creative fatigue happens way faster, competition is everywhere, executing even more with AI, and buyers spend less time with vendors than ever before, which means that the leverage has moved a little bit more upstream. Who you target, why your customers choose you, and what you say once you have their attention. That's exactly what today's session is going to be about. Gab is going to show us how to take these foundational product marketing activities like ICP, positioning, messaging, and turn them into structured AI skills, which is going to be really exciting. And we'll watch him build everything live using a real company example. By the end of this session, you'll walk away with practical frameworks, templates, a clear understanding of how AI and product marketing can work together. So hopefully you have a new doc open, or even, like I said, a pen and paper. This one's going to be packed with a bunch of takeaways. Gab, welcome to Coach by Triple Dart. We're excited to have you.
Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate it. And
No
thanks everyone for
worries.
joining. Thanks everyone for joining. I know that you took time out of your day. So my goal today is to make sure this is impactful as possible, and you can have fun. You can come back with something to do later this week that will impress your team and your colleagues. So without further ado, let's get started. I'll go through me a little bit very quickly. But my name is Gab. As I told Glenn earlier, I started in SEO 10 years ago. And rapidly, what I was being asked of was, hey, Gab, can you double the lead? And then the next month, hey, Gab, can you double the lead? And then the next month, hey, Gab, can you double the lead? If you've been in marketing, demand gen, performance marketing, you surely heard that at some point, right? Management is asking you to increase the level of results and output and revenue, but you're still stuck with problems that you don't control. So what happened on my end is I needed to work on a specific product in the cloud industry. And I just decided to take basically 6 use cases and try to turn those use cases into leads. So on paper, my job was, well, I was doubling the leads every month. But when we took a look at the pipeline, the sales team was like, hey, those leads are bad. You need to fix it. You need to do something out of it. This is when I learned product marketing. This is when I understood the key elements and impact of positioning, of messaging, of overall, making sure that the ICP is strong enough and tight enough as well. So without further ado, after this little story time, let's get started. So yeah, basically, as Glenn told you, I'm building AI systems for product marketers with Cloud Code. I've been doing a podcast called We're Not Marketers, when we interview over 50 product marketing experts to understand what makes good product marketing, how can we redefine the role and making sure everyone is being more successful. The skills I will be using today have been downloaded and used over 200 times by PMMs and other people in marketing. I was named 2 times top PMM consultant, and I have a small LinkedIn audience. So if you're here today, right, you can be a product marketer, a performance marketer, a founder, a senior marketer, whatever. There's multiple use cases, right? Maybe you've been stuck with some strategic foundation of like a bad ICP, a really old of the mill positioning, messaging that doesn't truly hit or feels very generic. My goal today is to make sure that whatever your role is, that you come back with, hey, can we do something about our foundations today? Or can we try at least to fix it? Or can we have a semblance of validation that this is actually working properly because we took a look at the different gaps around the market? So my goal today is very much that you come back, you have those skills you can call, and you're just becoming someone with much better campaign in the long run afterward. I just want first to just maybe be a little bit honest. This is not a replacement for deep product marketing. But if you are working with PMMs and they are busy right now, if you don't have someone in product marketing on your team, if you are trying to just challenge the status quo of the way you're doing campaigns right now, this is the perfect opportunity for you, right? You'll get the right resources, and basically the skills are good, right? But I like to say that there's no bad agents, there's no bad skills, there's no bad prompting, there's just bad context, right? If you are not feeding the right context to AI, you'll just get something that feels very generic, and you'll get the same thing with your outputs. So in that example, I'll show you what it looked like a little bit more cleaned up with the company example that we have. But always keep that in mind, right? There's no bad AI stuff. There is, but oftentimes it can be linked to a lack of context. Yeah, so basically, especially in performance marketing, you probably heard this, and let me know in the comment if you did. You are talking with a founder or someone who doesn't truly get marketing, and they're telling you, yeah, but can we just increase the bid? Can we just increase the budget, and then we'll get there, right? Can we just spend like an additional 10K a month, and then for sure we'll be successful, right? Like this is basic math. And then you kind of have to explain, well, it really depends, right? We need to make sure we have the right landing pages. We need to make sure we have the right ad score. We need to make sure that we are bidding on the right keywords. There's a lot of multiple elements to make this successful. And it's not just a game of +1, -1, right? So because the engine is getting harder, I think the only move is to make sure those foundations are being nailed down. And this is how we'll do it. We know Glenn tackled it at the beginning. Everything is getting harder, right? The targeting, the creative, the auction, the attribution, and even your edge. We're trying to making sure that we're being differentiated. This is something I keep hearing PMMs and marketers saying, how do we differentiate? But everything is getting harder. We're getting more pressure. It's a very, I would say, complicated market right now. So that's why I think sometimes it's good to follow trends and to try to find like the new shiny thing. But there's nothing better than, at least from my perspective, foundations, right? Making sure that we are targeting the right folks and that it's done in a proper angle with everything you have. I did this small graph here, and it's basically just a correlation between the buyer's attention and the popularity of product marketing, who's helping nail down the strong foundation. So, buyers are spending less time with vendors every year. You're doing your own research, which is why that you don't want to, when you push something out in the web, right? You don't want this to be noise. You want this to be signals. You want to be signaling to potential buyers that, hey, this is relevant for you, because we're going deep down to the messaging, because we're going deep down into a bold positioning, because we're tackling you as an ICP and we're not targeting 8 different industries from 8 to 800 employees with 16 different titles, right? It needs to be tight, because otherwise it won't be relevant. It will stay surface level. There's 3 questions every campaign quietly depends on, right? Who you sell to, the ICP, why you win, the positioning, and what you say, the messaging. But the struggle, and again, would love to hear you in the comments if this is truthful. A lot of paid teams are inheriting this, right? You're getting a document, you're getting an old deck, you're getting something that a past CMO went in, give, and then you're kind of stuck with it a little bit. I think it's really important that you are not inheriting this, and if you do, that it's actually done with relevant and fresh data, right? Positioning, no positioning project was ever successful if it was done by someone alone for 4 weeks without any data, right? It's like the perfect opportunity to get screamed over by stakeholders on the all hands meeting. So because often none of them are being pressure tested, just iteration over iteration, this is when you're getting performance issues, and that things are not just going your way, essentially. So my point of view, and we tackled it at the beginning, the gaps that make AI output generic is a gap that makes your targeting and ad copy generic as well. So if it's garbage in, it will be garbage out. So if you fix that, then there is no more guessing, and you can use like past campaign results. That improvement between messaging A and messaging B is drastic, and then you can just keep reusing that until you seeing uh, like results decreasing or something. So now we're getting to the fun part slowly. Thank you for enduring me here with the whole spiel. But I decided to do a try here with the live example with Atio. Atio is a CRM. I like it pretty good, pretty much. But Atio, like there's the way on how they're running ads today that I think can be improved. So we'll run our three skills, the ICP, the positioning, and the messaging. And then we'll be able to get new ads based on those specific changes. So yeah, at the end, you'll leave with the example. You do repo, you'll get the deck as well. So here's an example on how I built this repository, right? So it's Satio. There is the CloudMD file. The CloudMD file, a way to think about it would be that it's basically the brain of your repository. So this is when it's including like all of the details. What are you trying to talk about? Goals, the way you want things to be working. So it's an entry point, but it's really a cornerstone of your whole repo. Then you have the context. So in that case, I ran a raw research on ITO, like who's the profile, who's the market, what are the competitors, what's the voice is being used right now. And then we have the skills, right? The ICP, positioning, messaging. So I already preloaded them. We have the examples of the real ads that Atio is running, and then we have the outputs, what the skills are ultimately producing. So again, context first, otherwise the output will be generic. This is a part that a lot of people are skipping, or they are misunderstanding what context means. What I like to say is, let's say you're working with, you're trying to launch a new campaign and you want to make sure that you are covering all of your ground in terms of context. Try to say as if you were talking with a really smart intern that needs a lot of instruction to make sure you do the job right. You would not just say, hey, please build me a website. It would be more along the line of, well, I mean, this is what you're trying to do. This is the destination I want to be having. This is your role in this. This is the type of stuff that I want to see. This is guardrails I want you to apply. And if you have any question, ask it to me. Let's be concise. Let's get there. A nice kind of a little hack I like to say when I prompt when I talk with Claude Code is, let's have a Socratic debate about this, right? Or let's say you are Andreessen Horowitz founder, and you are reviewing my pitch for me to get funding, right? And you are super hard or brutal into trying to be the devil's advocate or whatever. You can always kind of use that just as a way to make the final output better. So just the way the skills are working, there's like three elements, or I should call them act. There's build, so it's basically laying out the foundations, like what exactly inputs do we need in order to create the output we need on that skill. What's the pressure test? So sometimes we add or we modify elements, excluding them to make sure that this is strong enough. And then at the end, we operationalize. Do we need to turn that into a signal map for the ICP to make sure we find them for the sales team? Do we need to fix the way it's been written right now? Do we need to turn that into a 60-second pitch? All of that is super relevant. So without further ado, now is the fun part. Yeah, I feel like I'm talking fast, but I don't think anyone will will be mad if we're finishing early. But I'll try to slow my pace a little bit. Let me know in the comment. I'm not sure if I can see it. If I'm talking too fast, no, it seems to be fine. Yeah, so let me just open my prompt here. So I'm running Cloud Code on my terminal. This is working as well if you're running it from Cloud Desktop. I'm just doing it that way because this is how I work. But what I did is I picked that specific repo on my desktop. And because I'm a madman, I decided to dangerously skip permissions. And now what we're going to be doing is, let's run the ICP skill for Atio. So, nice. Let me just fix this. This is the love demo, right? Like you are doing something and then it's getting a problem exactly when it's happening. Let me just check what we're getting with this for a sec.
At least everybody knows that this is real, right? This is not pre-recorded or anything like that.
Yeah. Are you still seeing my screen or did I stop sharing it?
You stop sharing.
Okay, cool, perfect. Nice. So there's okay, this is really funny. There's a problem with Cloud right now. I think yeah, there was a meter outage uh, a minute ago. So we can still do it because I have the outputs like already preloaded. But this is my biggest luck. I'm doing a webinar and then Cloud is out. Let me just present to you what it looked like then. All right. Okay. So I'll show you the skills, and then we'll be able to take a look if this outage is still it's still live. But basically, the way the skills are working is it's based on different tiers here. So tier one is the ICP definition, the messaging hierarchy, and the positioning audit. So for tier one, the ICP definition, what I did was for the Act One, it's asking me different layers of the ICP. So in that case, we have the product category, the current customers, the sales cycle insight, the competitive alternatives, and then the business objectives. So in that case, when we take a look at the skills here, we have exactly the same. As you can see, they are being generated directly into the repo. When we take a look at the outputs of what it gave, we have the ICP here skill. So it picked this from the context earlier, right? So it took a look at it, and then I had a discussion. It gave me from 10 to 80 employee. So wanted to keep it tight. Stage being VC backed, Series B funded with a tooling budget. The industry here would be B2B software startups, AI native, expect their own tool to be AI native too, geography global, English first, US and European startup hubs. And then team structure, this one was missed, but maybe being founder led, right? So this is a different angle that I picked from the real ICP from Adio. And to be honest, I don't know what Adio ICP is. This is not stuff that is, I guess, publicly available. So this is the first layer, right? And when we go back into the deck here, this is the pyramid of what we're trying to do. First should always be firmographic. So those are different layers, and the skills, when you're adding it, will be asking you those questions one by one. What's the site? What's the stage? What's the industry? What's the broad filter? It will take a look at your context first. And then based on that, it will then draft the firmographic aspect. Then we have behavioral, right? What signals are providing real intent, not necessarily just a fit on paper. Then psychographic, right? What do people believe and fear? How can we approach this persona in a way that makes us signaling that we are a good fit for them? And the most important one that a lot of people are skipping because they are either not talking to customers or not just documenting it is the language, right? What's their actual words, the raw material we can use for hook. So in that case, you can see here we have the buying trigger here for behavioral. In the spreadsheet, a Notion database breaks, so the deals are slipping. Or when you're using HubSpot and Salesforce, you kind of fighting their data model. So you need real tooling. And then there are the current tools that they're using, the evaluation behavior, what they do, the decision process on how they are actually buying, the timeline on how quick it is to buy, and then the content consumption, right? Where are they consuming content so we can find them? And then we have psychographic, and then we also have layers. So in that case, it was sourced, but ideally this needs to be coming out from Sales Call, G2, Reddit, community threads, and this is draw from their site. But ideally, you would have like languages for problem, solution, objection, success, and comparison. And this is a gold mine for your ads, for your metadata, SEO description, for whatever you're pushing out there, like content, socials, all of that. And this is very much the bridge. So once you have those elements from the ICP, the link from your ideal customer profile to your messaging should make sense. But the link is usually ICP, positioning, and then messaging, which we'll tackle in a moment. So I don't think I'll just open it for fun, but I don't think, yeah, it's still an issue. It's not a problem. Like once the outage will be done, you'll be able to have fun with it, test it out yourself. But that's that's what it is. The law of demos of things breaking down when I show stuff. Something else that is important to understand here: if your ICP is fluffy, right? If it's unclear, if it's foggy, I used to do that with lots of founders when I was starting. When I was working in the business development agency, my goal was, hey, how can we deliver meetings? And I was the attributed PMM that needed them to understand, who are we talking to and how can we deliver those said meetings. You can lead with an anti-ICP, right? An element that is actually included into the Act 2 that I talked to you about, like the refinement part. The anti-ICP is basically like if we are defining who we are not against, who we are not for at all, it's a lot easier to then understand who we are for, right? So a lot of those startups or smaller companies often are saying, let's target everyone, right? Bigger market. We can then go to the VCs. We can get that funding. It's perfect. But ideally, what you need is very much a way to understand if you are not for those people, it's a lot easier to understand who you are for ultimately. Then the positioning audit. So in that case, what we did was, let me go in the output positioning. Cool. So for the positioning, and yeah, this is the other skill that I have here. Let me just go here. For the positioning, there's 4 pillars of what we're trying to focus on, right? The ICP that we talked about, the use case and category, the competitive alternative, and then the differentiation, right? At a minimum, this is what your positioning should look like because it's giving context. You understand what's happening right now. What can people do in terms of like, do I want to go in an adjacent competitor? What's the squeeze out of it? Is it direct? What's the status quo right now? And because you're doing that and everything kind of plays together, those 4 pillars are incredibly powerful because then if you're trying to craft messaging, it's actually linked to an overall strategy that ultimately stakeholders and management are agreeing, right? So that's kind of like the first element, and this will feed you a positioning statement. So an example here, ITO is a CRM for builder-led startups who outgrew the spreadsheet, but won't be boxed in by a legacy CRM. Unlike Salesforce and HubSpot, which bend you to their data model that we talked earlier, or Notion and Airtable, which are flexible but not a real CRM, ITO gives you a fully customizable data model on a real CRM backbone. So you set it up the way you sell in an afternoon without an admin, and it still scales to 200 people. So we have that. What's happening then is it's doing competitive mapping, right? Of like the market, everything we talked about on clarity, differentiation, relevance, credibility, and memorability based on your competitors. So here we can see if we compare ITO with Salesforce, with Notion, Airtable, and HubSpot, like in terms of the dimension with the data model flexibility, how are they weighing in? And then it's providing us with the scorecard I talked to you about, ownability, relevance. So in that case, we have 3.4 out of 5, and the biggest gap is in ownability. So maybe this would be a messaging fix, right? It's not about the claim. It's more about the claim than the actual feature or software. It's giving us that flags, right? Some elements to fix, right? Some stuff to change, some elements to be aware of. So this is like basically there's also a white space analysis. It takes a look at the market and then tells you, okay, well, this is relevant. This is a low credibility. The competitors can just pick this and lead with it. Something that a lot of product marketers and ultimately marketing leadership care about is if we decide to change our messaging or change our homepage or whatever, and then like, are we at risk of the competitors to just keep using the same one, right? When you're able to use that white space, you understand the way they are positioning themselves, and you can be bolder as well because you understand all of the pieces in front of the board. You also have like a stakeholder summary. This for product marketers is it's like the holy grail. You can just explain the biggest gap right now, and then using that as a way, hey, we need to be fixing or positioning essentially. So yeah, at the end you get like that score, and it's a lot better in terms of like the way you want to be approaching a positioning revamp than just saying, hey, let's change our positioning, let's run into that 4 weeks process that everyone hates. That way you can come in with an argument that feels a lot more research. And then the messaging hierarchy. So when we go here, we have the messaging. And again, like as I told you, messaging is built on a positioning foundation, right? It needs to have that in mind because otherwise the other elements will be weaker. And I like to say that it's like a foundation of a house, right? The positioning is the foundation of the house, it's everything it's built on. It's like the walls, and it's kind of like basically just the foundation. Messaging is more like the walls, the structure, like the top of the house, all of that together. And then the copy is what the actual furniture looked like inside of it, right? So if you're trying to get furniture without a strong foundation or walls without a strong foundation, everything will fall down like a house of cards. So that's why this is really important to tackle. And then we have the 5 layers of what I call the messaging hierarchy. So the point of view, right? The value proposition, the benefits, the proof points, the features, and then you have a traceability chain, right? So this is our point of view. What's the value prop? What's the true benefits? What's the proof of that benefits? And what features are we encompassing that benefits under, right? You get a score on terms of quality if it's passing. So I basically I'll just be straight. I build this entirely based on my experience as a product marketer over the past 6 years. So it's in depth. This might look overwhelming a little bit. You might be like, Gab, you overkill this, but this is done by default. I wanted someone with like the best positioning to still find gaps, as I wanted someone with no positioning to be able to get to a level that feels very competitive in a market that is very cutthroat. Like for example, in Martech, I worked with a client and it was like, how do we differentiate from those three market leaders and all of that? So that was like what was in mind for that. And yeah, basically we have the 60-second pitch here on how you can do that messaging stuff to just pitch it in front of someone that might be on the call with you for a pitch. So yeah, like basically the way it works is everything is built on the POV, then it's the value prop, then it's the benefits, the proof points, and the features. Now you have to understand that the output is not a doc, right? It's actual ad you can run. So we have all of those outputs that have been created here. So it starts with the context. Again, the one on ITO was a bit weak, but if you have a way of very much having something strong that encompass the right elements that you need, I would strongly encourage you to do that. And then you have the artifact, right? What we created, the ICP, the positioning, the messaging. You'll see that when you run those skills, it will ask you some question that might be really hard to answer, which at the best, you can always ask someone who's more knowledgeable. And then once this is done, you can always just keep iterating up until you find something satisfactory. I'm not saying that running those skills will get you like 100% of the part there, but it will put you in a position when you understand the different facets of what you're trying to get. So yeah, I'll just show this to you. I have a question first. How do you ensure AI translate the output from these steps into consistent messaging and content? Good question. What I like to say is there's some type of guardrails I like to ask. And basically, let's say that you are running those initially. Let's say you're running the skills. You can add after you receive the first output, hey, take a look at all of the context we have right now in terms of past campaign, in terms of our copy, in terms of everything that has been human validated or human verified, and score it out of 100. If it's not at least at 90%, redo it until it's there, right? It's a very simple prompt, but I like to say it just in a way to see how does the structure is built to make sure the agent is going into the right direction. But also, is it understanding properly the right context that I created around the ask of those skills? Another question from Irene. How does this get verified, cross-check with users? Want to understand the fail-safe on this. So basically, I think, let me know if I understood your question properly, but cross-check with users. In that case, I'm guessing you mean like the target market or like the people that you created like the language first. So when we go here, we have like the language of their actual words and the raw materials of hook. There's another skill. So this is like the tier one that I talked to you about, but there's another skills that I created called and it's on the second tier. Message market fit, right? Messaging is something that should be tested. Not everyone knows how to do it. The good thing is you are product marketers. Sorry, you are performance marketers. So you are running ads. You have a lot of touch points with those users. So what I did is I created this skill, and it's basically diagnosing if the current audit against your target persona are proper and are working. And then if it's not, the second act would be to fix it. So it's taking a bunch of elements here. It's validating if your messaging is ready to test. And then it's diagnosing if the way we're using this actually works. So that's another skill you can use. You'll get access to this one. But yeah, like positioning is a long-term thing that you are doing a bet on. Messaging is something you should be testing, right? With the copy is influenced by the messaging. So at some point, this needs to be tested across website, ads, outbound emails, sales one-liner, pricing page, headline, all of that, even in product elements. So I hope I was able to answer it properly. Now, I want to show you some of the example I did, and then we should be ready to wrap this up. But I use the trees foundation skills in the repo, and then I did an analysis of their ads prior. So those are a few ads that I took from the LinkedIn ad library of IDEO. What I don't really like is they have been positioning themselves as like the AI native or the AI CRM. We know that like AI is on the mouth of everyone these days, but it's also creating it as a commodity. If you are the AI CRM, and then HubSpot and Salesforce are saying that they are the AI CRM or that they have those capabilities, it's not helping your messaging differentiate, and you'll get placed into the box of being noise a lot quicker and sooner. So what I did with those foundations, what the angle was a lot more about data, data bending, making sure that it felt like a real thing. Um, so I created those. You also have the skill to do some design, but it's very lightweight. So your SEM should match your business. There's like, again, I did like a run on this, but this is example of what it could look like, right? And this is the POV, the value prop, the problem, the benefits, the three benefits, and then the proof. So this is straight from the messaging hierarchy doc. It's just building it on a way that it would look like. And then of course, ideally you would not be running those ads straight away. Maybe you would fine tune them or whatever, but at least you get a big part done just by generating this. Uh, and yeah, like there was a bunch of others that I did here as well. So from the social proof, so as you can take a look, like once you have everything, like the final results of like running those ads gets a lot more simplified. Yeah, as kind of like a final, as like kind of like a final thing to remember, you should always be doing the thinking first, and then you try to encoding it as a context, and then you can run it at skills, right? The way I've been running my business for the past 2.5 years has been very much similar to that. So always taking an angle of like, hey, okay, so I'm trying to, what is the task am I doing every day? That the part of it is like grunt work, and the rest is more me thinking about it. So an example would be my pipeline skill, right? Every time that there's either a lead, an appointment, a proposal, or a sales happening in my sales process, I just call out the pipeline skill, and then it's filtering it for me. And then I have a skill called strategy every month that I then take a look at my pipeline and other stuff. So I thought about it at first. I did it for months manually. And then I basically just created a context that I can run as a skill for myself. So yeah, everything from today is yours. And again, I'm really sorry about the fact that uh, Entropic decided to have an internal server error during that webinar, but it doesn't remove the fact that you still have access to everything. You can still run it yourself. You get access to like the webinar of ITO that sorry, the repo from ITO, my PMM skill set. You can start running it. But yeah, otherwise, happy to connect with you guys. Happy to answer some question if you have some. And I appreciate you being here today, even with the little technical issue.
Gab, thank you so much. I mean, technical difficulties aside, like you queued everything up prior to today's walkthrough. I think that's a huge save, and it shows through your professionalism right there.
Thank you.
I appreciate how you showed us how, to encode a company's context into a system and how that actually can produce useful outputs, right? The idea that, the gap that makes AI output generic is the same gap that makes marketing output generic, right? And is the one
100%.
thing
Yeah.
I think, yeah, exactly. I think that's the main takeaway that people are going to remember from this webinar. We had a couple of questions come in. You did answer a little bit, but we also at Triple Dart have, a couple of questions straight from the team. So one
Nice.
thing I found interesting was how maybe a positioning audit surfaced maybe white space that competitors weren't necessarily owning for a company operating in a crowded category where everyone sounds pretty similar. What's your advice for identifying maybe a positioning wedge that is actually a little bit more defensible rather than, just different?
That's a good question. I would say, first of all, positioning is a team sport. If it was like, if you had to just pick like an adjective or a word you want to be known for, uh, my job would be super easy, but it's not. So I think it's more a question of like, if there's a white space for the competition, let's take Martech, or I know you guys work with Storyline and interactive demo, so maybe we can pick that one. Because it's really crowded, you have to understand that, okay, well, maybe we can go there, but is there any reason why did the competition never go there, right? I think it's a good question to ask yourself. Like, if they didn't took that path, is there any motivation for us to take it? And I work with a client called Guideflow, which is a competitor alternative of Storyline. And one of the angle that I pitched them was that Storyline was focusing a lot on create new demo really fast, right? Like create a killer demo in 2 minutes. I think that was the headline at the time. And looking at sales calls and recordings and a lot of stuff from the Guideflow team, I realized that a lot of people didn't really care. Well, they care about creating fast demos, but then those demos that they created, those videos that they recorded, were basically rotting when there was a new update. So even if they were creating demos really fast, they were kind of stuck with the fact that the demo I recorded 2 weeks ago, I needed to re-record it because we had a different UI, a different UX, different elements. So I would say that with that, we took the angle of like demo rot, was a term that I kind of brought. It was not accepted, but then like it's stuff that is being contrarian or like polarizing, right? Just an example, we're not marketers. It's a podcast, and the question we're asking at the beginning of every interview is, are product marketers actually marketers? And I posted that on LinkedIn at some point, and it became a dumpster fire. We don't know marketing. You're not a real PMM. But polarizing stuff, even if people don't agree with us, is what put us on the map. It's what help us develop ourselves, because it's polarizing. And at the end of the day, I don't really care what the answer is. It's just a big research project. So I think if you start with something polarizing, you have a better chance of being a signal instead of the noise, especially in a crowded market.
Got it. Yeah, lean on that polarization.
Yeah.
Cool. This question is from Gautam. Would you say that adding the design system is the natural next step here? Gautam, you might need to
Um,
expand on. Oh, go ahead, Gab.
Yeah, so my understanding, and you can tell us if I'm 100% wrong, which I'm often are, but we get by learning. I think this design step is after doing the messaging. Um, I think that the way the messaging hierarchy is done is you already have the copy. So technically, what you're trying to get right now is maybe listing out specific channels. So if you're not running ads and you don't care about creatives, maybe we can think about, how do I take that messaging hierarchy into customer facing assets? So in that case, I did it for like performance marketing in mind. But if you're not running ads, or if you are managing outbound campaigns, or if you're creating specific landing pages, or if you are doing specific type of content, there is a way on how you can segment that messaging into any campaigns that are running, as long as it's relevant. That case was just, hey, I uh, willingly created this to be relevant to like push ads as quickly as possible after this, but the design step is not necessarily the logical step if you're not willing to work on creatives.
Got it. Next one. This one's from Praveen. How have the results been on implementing this?
I'm guessing you're talking about. I'm not sure if it's about ad results or overall results of like running those skills, but I know I got around like 25 comments from product marketers saying that this is life changing to the way they're running stuff. Just because again, like it's not like I just went in my little cave and I was like, I'm going to be creating skills. I interview 50 product marketing experts. I've been running my business for 2.5 years. I've been working with over 40 B2B SaaS startups. And I spoke to a shit ton of PMM, pardon my French. So I'm just taking that into account. And this is how I kind of build that depth of skills essentially. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to be offering it for free so people can run it. But I would say that right now, every client that I work on positioning with were really satisfied, and they felt like this was a connector to everything else. Right? Often you're hiring a positioning expert or a consultant or an agency, and you get something out of it. But sometimes because lack of resources or direction or management, we're like, okay, but what the hell do I do with it, right? So that's what the idea behind, like, every time I was working on go-to-market projects, I was like, okay, what's your ICP, what's your positioning, what's your messaging, and then we can start thinking about how do we want to push campaign. Hope that's helpful.
Got it. This one's from Madhushri. While doing the ICP analysis, how can we be sure that we've narrowed down the right ICP for our product?
Great question. um I would say if you feel uncomfortable about it, I think it's a good thing. Um, Often management like to say, "Hey, let's target those big of a company." But I think the way messaging works is it's like an arrow that you can be high and you can be low, and the higher you are, the broader you are, right? An example, you probably ever saw ads of like increase your revenue, reduce cost, right? If you are a business and you don't increase your revenue, you'll die. And if you don't reduce in cost, at some point you'll die, right? This is the broadest thing that every single businesses on earth wants to do. So this is very surface level, right? Whether you are from industry A or industry Z, you will still need to do those two things. So then it's becoming a game of who am I talking to and what real deep problem they are dealing with. I can tell you that product marketers feel that nobody knows their role. There's a misconception. They are confused and they are the first on the chopping block because it's a collaborating role that is cross the organization. So a lot of PMMs feel unheard, feel depressed, are scared about the future, are overwhelmed by the speed of AI in the rabbit hole. Like, if I'm talking to them about that, it will be a lot more relevant than, hey, PMMs, increase your revenue, reduce costs, right? So this is a segue I like to use, or like a temperature check a little bit. I would say the best way to understand if it's the right recipe for the right product is to take a look at scale at sales. Take a look at the pipeline, right? Take a look at the close won deals. Do, even if you are a product marketer or if you are working with one, do a win loss analysis, because this is telling you what's actually driving revenue. And at the end of the day, you can have the best mapped out ICP. If there's no revenue linked to it, it's worthless.
Awesome. All right, this last question is from me. You made the point that, paid has become a bit harder, targeting, creative, auctions, attribution, all have become increasingly competitive. If you joined a SaaS company, let's say tomorrow, and could only fix one thing first, ICP, positioning, or messaging, which would you tackle first and why?
That's a really good question, man. Let me think about it. So I'm joining a B2B SaaS and I can only fix one thing, either the ICP, the positioning, or the messaging.
Yeah.
Um, I think I would fix. I think we'd fix the positioning because by default the positioning is including the ICP. So maybe it would be twofold. And then when you tackle the positioning, you will still need to work on the ICP. But like to me, if a company doesn't know what type of mind share they want to own in a crowded or even a new market, I think they are setting themselves up for failure. So I would 100% lead over positioning. This is what's feeding the messaging. You can run messaging first, but without having like an umbrella, a strategic umbrella of what you're trying to deliver, you'll run into a lot of issues.
Got it. Yeah, and I think that directly ties into the polarization that you're also speaking about too. Like if you have a really good polarizing position, right, that kind of bleeds out into who you're targeting, what you're saying yourself. So it kind of branches out from there.
Yeah, and you don't need to be that polarizing. I know that people are like, "Oh, let's be unhinged." I'm not necessarily talking about that, but an example I like to use is everyone knows Clay. Clay
Yeah.
is tough to use, right? Like there's a learning curve. So there's a company called Freckle, and Freckle, what their positioning was at some point on their homepage was it's Clay without the learning curve. Doesn't need to be more difficult than that. You get it. You're like, hey, I know this brand. They are knowledgeable, and now I understand that they are positioning themselves against a competitor. So if you don't want to spend time learning Clay, you can just use Freckle and get there in the same way, basically.
Nice. Cool. Well, amazing session today, Gab. You've covered a lot of ground. I think a lot of people are leaving with a new perspective on AI, not as a replacement for strategy, but a way to operationalize a lot of things once the right foundations are in place. Just a quick note for everyone in the audience, we'll be sending out the recording as well as Gab's slides from today's session. So keep an eye out for that email. Before you wrap up, Gab, if there's people that want to continue the conversation with you, where's the best place to connect?
Yeah, you can go at pressx2market.com. This is my website. I'm targeting mostly product marketers, as you know, but you can check out my premium skill set there. Anyway, you will receive it via email, I'm sure. And yeah, you can follow me on LinkedIn as well. My link will be there. So I'm posting on LinkedIn every week, and I'm doing a newsletter every 2 weeks when I'm talking about AI for product marketers. So you can get a lot more goodies like this. But appreciate everyone's times. Appreciate triple our time of running this, and I'm glad we're able to do this without AI, folks.
Yeah, perfect. We're going to include all of those links in the recap email. And for anyone who's interested in improving their ICP, sharpening their positioning, all of that good stuff, feel free to connect with Gab. You can also reach out to us at Triple Dart. We're excited to keep the conversation going. But for the most part, Gab, thank you so much again for joining us today, sharing your expertise with the community. We really appreciate you coming on Coach by Triple Dart.
Hey, you're welcome. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a good rest of your day, wherever you are. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining. Bye bye.